What is up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with my good friend and co-host for the day, Kevin Lambert from the Entertainment Headquarters. Thank you for being here, sir.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Yep, and we're doing another Kaiju Spotlight, and this time we were doing a Shimo, brought to us by Legendary in the Monsterverse, and this is an interesting kaiju to say the least, really. Yep. You gotta go and give us our love for the creature. I actually have a couple of versions. I've got the really cheapo version too. But I was really happy when I first saw Shimo, mainly because it's unique and probably one of the better ones that Legendary has brought forward on their own. Like we've seen like Behemoth and Scalia and some of them, but she's probably like one of the more unique ones that we've seen that has like a lot of power. I mean, obviously Tiamat is very cool, but we didn't see a whole lot of him. So it's really just Shimo. She was like a focal point of Empire.
Yeah.
Being enslaved.
And you had this guy, Scar King. So, but obviously Shimo for me was a highlight of the last Monsterverse film.
Yeah. And I kind of like what they did with her because rather than just have her like a villainous kaiju, she's actually was enslaved by Scar King to kind of do his bidding. But I think the other thing that's really cool about her too is she's an ancient titan, so she's been around long time. And I think what's cool about it, and I don't know if you kind of agree or not, but she's actually quite powerful. Like we know through the film of Empire that Godzilla had to kind of go around and power himself up just to be able to compete with her.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. How do you feel about her as a kaiju?
She's very unique and very different. And the one thing I like about Legendary, they have been pretty good so far of coming up with unique kaiju or titans. Obviously, we had the Mutos, and then we had the Skull Crawlers, and then King of the Monsters, and even Godzilla versus Kong were introduced to the Monsterverse versions of Toho classic monsters like Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan, and then with the next entry in the Monsterverse within the films were introduced to the next two original Titans. And for me, she is probably the most unique and the most interesting because during the lore that I've read up on her, she is meant to be the oldest, one of the oldest and one of the first Titans ever to exist. So she potentially could be millions of years old. And I know I think it's during one of the novels, the novelizations of either this movie, probably New Empire, it's revealed she's the one that started the Ice Age many years ago, and it was during the battle in the Ice Age where she was freezing the earth under control of Scar King. So the history is basically Scar King. There was the Titans of Earth and then the Great Apes. And I guess the Titans and the Great Apes lived alongside different ancient human civilizations, and then Scar King decided to rise above it all and somehow was able to get control of Shimo and start using her to take over the earth by starting an ice age. And I don't know if that correlates with when King Ghidorah came to the earth, because as you know, King Ghidorah was discovered frozen under ice. So I'm assuming either King Ghidorah just happened to arrive at the same time and when landed on Earth was immediately frozen, or did King Ghidorah ever battle Shimo himself and was frozen in a block of ice, which would be interesting if we could discover if that happened or not. But as always, when it comes to this law, Godzilla, who is the most powerful Titan, was able to fight back, defeat Scar King, who he then trapped in an underground lair of the Hollow Earth for, all this time till he re-emerged many years later. But the sad thing about Shimo's history is she has always been manipulated and tortured and controlled by the power of Scar King, which always was annoying to me. But when you see her, she's such a gentle creature deep down. I think she's very placid. I don't think she's a really dangerous, because when we watch the movie, every action she takes, it's under the influence and the control of Scar King, until right at the end where she looks at Scar King, then she looks at Kong, and then she sees this is an opportunity to escape and freezes the motherfucker. Only for Kong smash him to smithereens. So it was nice to see in many ways. Yes, I know it was down to Godzilla and Kong, but she made the choice to freeze Scar King out of her own accord. So basically, in many ways, she set herself free.
Yeah, so obviously when the young monkey destroys that crystal which had been used to control her, which again you kind of mentioned a little bit, like I would have liked to hear or learn like some of the backstory of that crystal and how it controls her. Like, is it a part of her back, or exactly what it is? But then also, like, I have read that, yeah, I think she is responsible for encasing Ghidorah in the ice, and so I don't know if she ever battled him, but obviously when she shoots her freeze ray up into the sky, that's when she can kind of like just freeze over the earth. And so I think maybe that might have just happened, and Ghidorah just happened to be like a byproduct of her doing that. And so I don't know if they actually ever fought, but it would have been interesting, because I do think she would be able to hold her own against Ghidorah, because she has that ability just to really hit you hard. Like I said, Godzilla had to go through so much just to be able to withstand some of that cold ice that she would shoot at him. And it didn't always work. Even Mothra had to bail Godzilla out down in Hollow Earth when she first hits him in the air. So that's how much the other kaijus have to kind of go through to try to compete with her.
And also, if you remember, in King of the Monsters, Godzilla was just himself that he had looked like from 2014 up to 2019 in Godzilla versus Kong. He never evolved, he never changed, he looked the same. I think the only difference is Michael Dougherty decided to alter the spines on the design, which made him look bigger and more fierce than the 2014 spines on his back. But apart from that, he never really evolved or changed. But when he got the sense that the Hollow Earth underneath needed help, and he kind of knew it was coming from the threat of the Scar King and potentially Shimo, he then made the choice to enter, the status to evolve himself to grow stronger and more powerful so you could take on the threat. So potentially he did that because he knew if he remained in the original form that we had known him in throughout the course of the Monsterverse, he might not have been able to defeat Shimo. So he obviously made that choice because he knew he had to basically alter himself to be able to take on this new threat. So that just shows you, if all of what's been said is true, that she is one of the most oldest and ancient titans and the most powerful, then even Godzilla in many ways had to change his strategy to take her on. And there's one other thing that I wish we had seen in New Empire, because we're introduced to Shimo in such a magnificent way. Kong enters, the Scar King's lair, and he's like, he's around the great ape tribe. Scar King introduces himself, and it's like, who's got the bigger gun? Who's the tough guy? Kong's not backing down from Scar King. until they have that kind of little battle, and then suddenly, once Kong then obviously got the upper hand, Scar King leans over with the crystal and releases Shimo. And her first introduction is such an amazing introduction for, that character. And then I thought to myself, we've seen how powerful she's ice, Godzilla's fire. I want to see these two battle each other one-on-one, and we kind of do see like little bits of infighting with them. I just wish that we had a bit like the Battle of Scar King and Kong, what we initially see. I wish we had a one-on-one fight scene where we actually saw a little bit of how tough Shimo was fighting Godzilla.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that's we've always talked about it with a lot of the different movies, especially within the MonsterVerse. That it's hard because I know it costs a lot of money to create these amazing movies and the graphics and all that, but there's a part of me that still says, dude, I would sit and watch nothing but monsters fight. Like you can put your humans in there, but I want to see some cool fighting. But that leads me to this though, about with Monarchs getting ready to release their season 2 soon. Do you think it's possible we see Shimo come through that at all? Because it is their product. I mean, Shimo belongs to the MonsterVerse and Legendary, so
I don't. Potentially anything could happen, because obviously I think we'll see a Skullcrawler. I definitely think, because it's based on Skull Island. That so far, what we know of the plot of the second movie, apparently it's all based on Skull Island. And so obviously I do think, because it's based on the island, that we will see a Skullcrawler or two. And the preview trailer, or the teaser trailer, also showed us some tentacle-like creatures.
Yeah.
Which reminded me of, like, I don't know if you ever watched it, but the Skull Island animated show that was created for Netflix, the main antagonist was the Kraken, which was a giant, like, squid-like creature. And of course, what we see in the trailer is a giant squid-like creature with, so the only way I could see Shimo being introduced or showcased in New Empire, sorry, not in New Empire, Legacy of Monster Season 2, if they did like a flashback sequence, because to our knowledge, we're only introduced to them, or her, like Scar King and her, in New Empire. We'll get with history of the characters. We'll get with history of them two particular characters, how they fought a ancient war many years ago with Godzilla, and he entombed them in the underlayer of the Hollow Earth, and then disappeared, and Scar King and Shimo's been trapped there for all that time, until kind of that layer that they're hiding in crumbles and there's an opening, and obviously Kong goes down and starts exploring it.
Yeah, you actually made a good point, because I know that towards the end of season 1 of Legacy, it's really, we get a glimpse of where Monarch is almost becoming the new, at least that faction is becoming the birth of Apex. And so that would make sense, because we haven't seen Shimo at this point, because we haven't even seen Mechagodzilla yet. So chances are we won't see her next season, because it's too early in her timeline.
Yeah, here is something that I find will be interesting, because obviously, you know me, I'm wearing the shit. I've got it all over my room. You know me in the Godzilla. You know me and me history and me loving compassionate of kaiju cinema. But one thing I'm really interested in is, as you know, spoilers for anybody that haven't seen it, but it's been out for nearly 2 years now. So please check up on Legacy Monster Season 1 if you haven't already. But we are introduced to a different cybernetic company, and it's revealed that because of different, the kind of things have been blown for that company, like, because I forgot the name of the character, but you had basically who's is it Kento, the thingy's brother has a girlfriend, and she obviously was hiding from something. It's revealed she'd been hiding from this company that she was working for, and she decides to release some files, which gives this company, this electronics company, a bad reputation. So to kind of change, you know, the press or whatever, the publicity, it's revealed at the end that they've changed the name to Apex Cybernetics.
Yeah.
And at the end of Legacy of Monsters Season 1, we are introduced to this team that are holding the compound on Skull Island, but it's being run by Apex. Now, if you skip a couple of years later, there's a compound on Skull Island, but it's actually run by Monarch.
Yep.
So it means Apex Cybernetics were on Skull Island way before Monarch. So I'm hoping the show Legacy of Monsters is going to show how that compound went from Apex to Monarch, and how Monarch suddenly now got control of Skull Island out of Apex's control. And also by showing with that, it's going to give a lot more history into the two sides of Apex and Monarch.
Unless they were kind of working together at some point, because even at that point, when the crew comes across Apex Cybernetics, they're the ones that are there are still also part of Monarch. So we know that in GVK, Kong is on Skull Island, but it's kind of like in this dome because the island's like collapsing upon itself. So maybe Apex had a hand in designing that in some way at the time,
Yeah, because in 2019, sorry, in Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't think Monarch and Apex are connected. So there's been a shift where their partnership must come to an end.
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's what we're going to see. We're going to see the rise and downfall on Skull Island of Apex, and probably the rise of Monarch on the island. And the character Tim, who was in the helicopter, when Godzilla came out of the soil in the desert and the helicopter crashed, Tim was on that helicopter. He was having arguments with the director of Monarch in the last episode, and so he turned to Apex for help. So hey, I'm assuming now working for Apex. But going back to Shimo, I'm hoping, because Shimo has become a popular character, Shimo has become somewhat of like a fan favorite. We need to think of the future of where she's going to fit into things, and will she make an appearance in Supernova, the next film?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too. Now, obviously, we showed you our little things. Like, her design is very unique as well. And from what I understand, the inspiration is a bit of like a polar bear mixed with like a Komodo dragon.
Yes.
Which is very cool. But yeah, so, obviously with Supernova, we still don't know quite everything, although there's rumors that Space Godzilla is going to make its appearance, much to your chagrin.
Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
That's true. Never believe the hype. It could be like a smoke screen. They might be doing something entirely different. But I do think, because of the way that Empire ended, that you do kind of leave the door open to see her again. The only thing I would worry is sometimes directors and scripts, they try to, use like sadness to create a storyline to where like redemption comes in. So like, what happens if, let's say it's Space Godzilla, and Space Godzilla comes down and faces Shimo right off the bat, right? Well, then all of a sudden, if he kills Shimo, then like I'm gonna be pissed. Like, I don't want that. So yeah.
Like, the rumor is for the next film that they want to do a shift. They want to make the focus on Godzilla. So obviously, when it came to Godzilla versus Kong, there were two separate plots, basically two teams: Team Kong, Team Godzilla. And in the middle, they met up, and it was revealed Apex, and then the reveal of Mechagodzilla. In the next film, New Empire, you just had basically Team Kong, who were trying to, navigate the Hollow Earth at the same time, Godzilla, of his own accord, decided to go into hibernation and evolved, and the governments of the world couldn't understand why he was doing what he was doing. And just like before, it came together at the end where he evolved to take on the power of the Skull King in Shimo. So I'm assuming with the next potential film, I think there's going to be two side plots. You're going to have whatever the plot is with Godzilla, which I'm hoping is going to be the main focus. Now, supernova could mean anything. You know, a lot of people assuming because of the teaser, they're assuming many things, that it's going to be more sci-fi and deal with space. They're assuming space Godzilla, but there's rumors is because there's this little red light that shines in the middle of the supernova logo, that people are assuming it's Gigan's visor. So,
hey, wouldn't hurt my feelings. I'd rather kind of see Gigan.
Well, if I had to pick the two, that's the one I want to see.
Right.
As you know, I'm a huge guy.
It kind of makes sense too, because again, like when I think King of the Monsters came out, they had that book. I think you actually have the book with all the artwork, and they actually had like a prototype type of Gigan in there. So if we were to go off the history of MonsterVerse, maybe that's an indication that we might actually get to see Gigan, which wouldn't hurt my feelings at all.
Yeah, but my thing is so the main plot should be either, if they're not going to introduce Godzilla, is like his story. I had an idea that because he had to get supercharged to take on King Ghidorah, as you saw, he destroyed him when he turned into burning Godzilla. And then he had to evolve, maybe because he's had so much supercharge and so much done, his body's now starting to reject it because he's overloaded.
Yeah.
And now suddenly he's at the point where he's trying to cool himself down by maybe attacking power plants and things on the Earth to keep himself from exploding. And he then becomes the threat. And so that could be one side of the plot. And then the other side of the plot could be, while that's going on the surface, Kong's on the bottom and the Hollow Earth with Shimo, and suddenly, because Godzilla's doing what he's doing up above, and he's now supercharging all the time and he can't control, that now attracts something that's hidden deep in the core of the Hollow Earth and in the Earth, which could be an alien entity that senses the overpowered Godzilla and then wants to confront him and awakes and escapes. And there could be could be Space Godzilla, it could be another type of entity, but to get to the surface he has to go through whoever's in the Hollow Earth, and that turns out to be Shimo and Kong. And Shimo
actually has like the power with the frost to kind of cool him down too. So again, maybe she plays a factor with that a little bit. Who knows?
That's what I was also thinking. Maybe they tried to lure Shimo up to the surface to take on Godzilla on her own to cool him down. But because Godzilla's not thinking straight, because he's just can't control, he actually could be the one that kills Shimo, and Kong, out of rage, goes after Godzilla for killing Shimo.
Could happen. I don't know if they're ready to really make Godzilla the villain, but you know, they did hint to certain things occasionally in King of the Monsters and all that, so you never know.
Yeah, because they have to, if they're not, because I think they need to change the plot, or change, you know, how the MonsterVerse is going, because there's only so many times you can find a way to get them to team up. There's only so many times, you know, where a lot of people generally want just a direct rematch between them.
Well, and that's the thing too, like, you know, so I didn't, you know, obviously when GVK came out, I was happy with the way it was directed. I'm happy with the way that it was played out. Empire turned out to be better than I thought it was, obviously. But I do think they're kind of trying to still go to the well a little bit too much. Like, you don't really necessarily have to have Kong anymore, or you could do a separate Kong film and still have Godzilla just be his, because the first two, like Godzilla 2014 and King of Monsters, is still just Godzilla. So I don't know why they feel like they have to keep forcing Kong into every scenario. It's not really necessary.
Yeah, I think they should have maybe took a break from the team ups. And my ideal thing, now that you've got Kong with these two characters, you could have done it. You could have done like an Indiana Jones type adventure movie where you've got Kong fighting something deep hidden in the hollow earth, but he's got Shimo and he's got Suko by his side, and you could have had some comedy elements where Suko's annoyed at Shimo's annoyed at Suko, so she turns him to ice, or she freezes his foot just to calm him down. And like you see it by the end of that film, the way Shimo comes across it is like a pet to Kong. And so, it would be like, but then I'm thinking, will they be frightened to do that with the likes of Shimo and Kong and Suko, because it would come across too much like, say, the Planet of the Apes, where Kong's now, he's coming across more like Caesar, but then that would have opened the door to do another solo film of Godzilla on the surface.
Yeah. So one thing I would like to, maybe if in this new film is, let's say it's Gigan that, Godzilla is facing. I would almost kind of like to see like a legendary version of Destroy All Monsters. Like I would like to see more of the monster fights between all of them, like whether it's Behemoth and them. We did see Scalia in the last one get his ass whooped, but we saw Mothra come back. Obviously, I don't know if Rodan will ever make a reappearance or not, but certainly.
Rodan actually was meant to be the villain in the first Legacy Monsters series.
Oh, really?
But then they changed it to the to that bird thing, the bat creature. I forgot what it's called. But that bat-like thing that Godzilla battled at the end.
Yeah, it's like a
and I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, the Iron Dragon.
Iron Dragon, yep.
So, they changed it to Iron Dragon because I don't think they got the rights for Rodan, or they just didn't feel like it was appropriate to put him in that time during the plot. But
well,
I think it'd be interesting if they did another team-up movie where the team above the surface ended up being Rodan, Godzilla, and Mothra, and then the other teams, Suko, Kong, and Shimo, and then you've got that'll happen in the next film where you've got team, because I don't want to ever see Millie fucking Bobby Brown in the film anymore. I'd rather just, and I think if you look at the cast of the next movie, you've got Sam Neill. You've got the guy who played the vampire in Sinners is in it. Michael Modine, is it Modine, who's in Stranger Things, who plays Dr. Brenner?
Matthew Modine.
Matthew Modine. He's in the new film. You've got the other guy out of Sinners, the guy who played the guitar, the bald-headed guy. He's a well-known legendary actor.
Yeah,
he's in it. You've got, and then I don't know if you've seen the film No One Will Save You.
No.
About the invasion. That's a decent invasion film. The lead actress out of that is in this. So the cast for me alone is probably the strongest cast we've had in any of the Monsterverse films. So that tells me.
Are they bringing back the young girl, the mute girl?
No, no, Jaya, she's not in it. Either's the doctor who she was with. The only one that's coming back from the previous film is Trapper.
Okay.
Dan Stevens.
Yeah.
Outside of Trapper, every other character is a new character.
Okay, that's cool. That's actually kind of good because you kind of get tired of the same people too after a while. So mixing it up a little bit sounds like a very strong cast.
Yeah, but I personally wanted to go more serious, and I think generally, if you think of the likes, that's the statue I have. If you think of the likes of Godzilla -1, it's really put all eyes on the Godzilla franchise, and Legendary really now should take the time to capture on this success. They've seen that you can have monster films with serious stories with human characters that really grab you, and I'm hoping they're going to do that this time round with this next film. And I'm hoping Shimo isn't just, a quick flash in the pan and gets, killed like you. I hope they give her justice and they use her well in the next film if she returns.
Yeah, I agree. Aside from like her abilities that she already has, would you ever want to see any adaptations or evolution to her at all?
Well, I've got like visions in me head where, because she's made of ice and I've got visions of her like helping Kong out. So, for example, he wants an axe and his axe snapped. She then change, because her ice will be the most strongest ice you can think of. I can see her maybe if like his axe breaks, her like freezing the end of the axe to make it sharp again and like helping him out.
Or they can like if she sheds those crystals on her back at all, those become kind of cool, because then if Kong can wield it and still like when he hits something it freezes it a little bit, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think like anything like if you look at the axe, for example, well, that's a perfect example. Look at the axe that he finds in Godzilla versus Kong. It's made out of a back spine from a Godzilla species.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if you can make a weapon, or if you found like bones and made like a whip, like Scar King, and used a shard of Shimo's back spines, it on the end, but except where Kong would use it wisely in the right way. Scar King used it in a negative way to control her.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I don't think Kong would even use like a crystal to try to control her. It's like they have an understanding, and she is kind of like a pet still, but she has free will, so that's good for her. Like Well, overall, what do you think is going to be the legacy of Shimo in terms of her character, her as a kaiju?
I think her legacy is she's unique, she's different. She's the first Titan, apparently one of the oldest Titans, and in the world of the Monsterverse, I think she'll be well respected for many years to come. I hope this isn't the only appearance of hers. I'm hoping what legacy, I keep saying legacy, Legendary are going to do is, if they ever do decide to end the Monsterverse, I hope they do like a Destroy All Monsters type film, in that they reintroduce past characters, and one of them has to be Shimo. And if they do reintroduce her, I want them to at least give her a really decent fight and battle sequence, because I think, like, imagine even seeing her versus Behemoth,
right?
Something of that nature, because Behemoth is also another character that made a brief appearance, but is already always talked about because of his unique look, and they want more Behemoth on screen. And I think she's obviously made a bigger impact, and I think her legacy is she'll always be known as the gentle giant and the friend to Kong, and the Titan who was you could sympathize with the most, because everyone sympathizes with Kong, but with her story in New Empire, you couldn't help but feel for her and sympathize with her. Couldn't wait for that time she'd break free and be free. And the instant she froze Scar King, I think the whole audience just smiled, because it's like, she's finally got her freedom, and the bad guy got what he deserved. And everyone complained with how Scar King looked. They were expecting like this big badass like rival ape to Kong. But then for me, he's like one of them Weasley slimy little bad guys that everyone loves to hate. So
he is.
So everyone despite the complaints, I think everyone was smiling when he met his end in the film.
Yeah, and it was perfectly done because, like, obviously, he's like this guy abusing his power with the ability to control Shimo. That's because really, when Kong gets the better of him, he's about ready to get his ass kicked. Like Kong was taking some licks with that whip, but he was still beating his ass. And then he just like smiles, like, and he goes and gets Shimo, and it's like, dude, you're cheating, you stupid bastard. So yeah, when she finally like freezes him, and you can kind of see his eye behind the eyes, he's like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh.
Yeah. But she's definitely going to be one of my favorites for a long time to come.
Yeah, I think she is very memorable. Like even when you like once MonsterVerse is done and all that, people are going to look back and say, yeah, you had Ghidorah and Godzilla and Rodan, Mothra, Kong, but there's this one kaiju you should know, Shimo. She stood out. She stood out.
One thing I want to know is because Legendary, obviously, Toho own the rights to Godzilla, and they have allowed Legendary to have the right to create Godzilla films. But they have to approve on every single thing. Like the certain stipulations, there's actually a book that Toho have, and in the book there's like 20, 30 things you can and cannot do with the character Godzilla. Yeah, and of course they have the yes and no on who or what is in the film. So when they seen Shimo, they would have approved of the Shimo design and who Shimo is in the film. So I've always wondered if, because of that, but in seeing if there's ever a fan favorite design or creature, would they ever one day decide to do a Toho version of these characters? I'd love to see. Yeah. I would love to see a Toho version of Shimo.
Yeah, if I forget how to pronounce his name, Takatashi, the one who did -1. If he ever keeps going with, because he's obviously doing the sequel, the -1. If he keeps kind of going, I would love to see his vision of what Shimo would be in the Toho universe, because that would be cool as shit.
I've got a funny feeling we're going to get a -1 trilogy.
Well, I'd hope so, because it's like you and I talked about. I talked about with some other people that if you're ever going to like blow kaiju fans' minds in like the grand scheme of things, if they are smart, Toho, they find a way in the third film that he makes, if he still goes to do a third one, is to get Godzilla versus Gamera, because that would be so awesome. Everybody, that movie would do so well, especially with that director. Oh my god.
I think the way things are going, I think the ice is starting to throw, it's melt slightly on between Toho and the other company. I think it's Daiei.
Yeah, Daiei.
But because Toho have allowed Gamera to appear in Gigabash alongside Godzilla, and Toho have also in Toho games actually have Gamera. Yeah, actually has a number of different designs and looks of Gamera in the game. They've got the Rebirth Gamera in the game. They've got the Showa era one. They've got Gaios in the game. So they've just added Rebirth Guron into the game. So, and this is Toho games.
Yeah.
So that's kind of breaking the ice and allowing Gamera to slowly peek in, and it makes me think they're just testing the waters to see how popular it is. But if I was Toho, I would just do what Disney's done. I would just fucking buy Daiei.
Yeah, I mean, all they would have to do is literally say, "Yeah, our third film is going to be Godzilla versus Gamera." I'd be like, "Take my money, take my money. I don't care. I'll go see it 50 times in the theater. Just take my money."
Because unless Toho owns it, because let's say Daiei won't want Gamera to die, and Toho ain't gonna let Godzilla die, so it would probably be a scenario where, yes, it says Godzilla versus Kong, but in the end, they fought Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, no, and that's fine, because really, we think about, you said it way back, that when Godzilla first met Kong, it was a big ordeal because you had America's Kong versus Godzilla from Toho. And so now, if you were to pit Gamera versus Godzilla, well, it's another big event. You got two iconic monsters who had never met each other, now fighting. But then it could be like a GVK where, oh, we think that, you know, maybe Godzilla will kill Gamera or vice versa, but it turns out they have to actually fight another creature, you know, and because they're both actually good kaiju in terms of, like, well, -1 isn't really a good kaiju, but you know, just in terms of their history, you know, Gamera is kind of like a earth-friendly type of creature.
Yeah, and if you think about it, Godzilla has been a villain, he's been a hero, he's been an anti-hero. With Gamera has only ever been seen as a hero. So I don't know if they would ever, you know, have the balls to make Gamera a villain.
I don't think Daiei would go with that one anyway.
I think the whole point when they did create Gamera is they wanted him to be the total opposite to Godzilla. Godzilla was born from atomic bombs, born in Hiroshima, from a very dark storytelling point of view. They wanted Gamera to be lighthearted.
I mean, in perfect sense with the -1, depending on what they do with the second film, because obviously Godzilla's gonna be fighting another creature or two, but depending on how that film goes, it's okay to have Gamera be the good monster, because in -1 Godzilla is not very nice. So you know, you can technically use Gamera as a good creature, but you know, it just depends if they ever get to that point where they can work together to find out a good story and everything else if they want to do that.
100%. But why don't they just put Shimo in the third -1 film? Because that would be something no one would expect. And if Shimo is bigger and as strong as she is in the Monsterverse, how big is she going to be in a -1 scenario? And how powerful is she going to be?
Exactly.
And it would, and even if they didn't do that, I would like to see Toho, if totally separate to that. I wouldn't mind seeing Toho doing something where they made a film where you have another Tokyo Toho design of Godzilla versus characters, but they were legendary characters. So they brought in, so they say they did another trilogy away from the -1 trilogy. So it would be another version of Toho Godzilla, but a version, the first film could feature him versus Toho versions of Skullcrawlers, and then the second film could be him versus a Toho version of the Mutos, and then the third one, make it the big bad and make it Shimo.
Yeah.
A Toho Shimo in the third and final of a trilogy of a Toho Godzilla versus Toho versions of Legacy Titans. But I don't think they'd never do a Toho version of Scar King because it's too similar to Kong.
Yeah, and it's kind of boring too.
Yeah.
Well, tell everybody what you got coming up on your channel so they know what to look for.
All right. We have coming this Saturday the Middle Earth special. So it's going to be you, me, and a handful of other amazing content creators talking all things Middle Earth, the Hobbit trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And then moving on from that, I think the next bit of content coming to the entertainment headquarters is on the 17th. It is the Retro Classic Movie Show. We're doing the Back to the Future trilogy. You and I will be joined by Thrash Pondupons and Anthony Jordan. After that, we have on the 19th the next Into the Darkness special. It's going to be you, me, Anthony Jordan, Mr. Tony there, talking about The Shining and Doctor Sleep. which is so good. I really like Doctor Sleep. And then on the 20th of December, I can't wrap the air out without talking about somebody that we've mentioned today, which is Gamera. It's his 60th anniversary this year. So I'm going to end the year with me special on him and celebrating all things Gamera. And then on the 23rd of December, you, me, and your lovely partner in crime, the lovely DJ Neko, will be getting together for a very special Christmas special where we're going to be talking about Edward Scissorhands and Scrooged.
Yep. As for me, I'm trying to get an episode of Lone Wolf with Cub out sometime this week, doing Chocolate. Ghouls of Midnight, I have my pick for this week, which is Deathstalker 2025, the reboot. And Mr. Tony has chosen the reboot of Silent Night, Deadly Night for his pick for this week. So we will be reviewing 2 new movies this year. So will they make my top 10?
Is that out yet, by the way? Silent Night, Deadly Night.
It comes out Friday, but he is in touch with people that have like a way to get a screener for us. So we're going to check it out. Then Friday, Neko and I are going to do another episode of Cultureverse Mindsets. Just going to go over a couple of videos in there. And then, of course, Saturday, as you discussed, we're doing Middle Earth with you. So that's pretty much what's on my plate right away. But again, thank you, sir, for joining me today. It's been a blast. I love doing these Kaiju spotlights, and Shimo is a good one to do. I really like this particular Kaiju. So
Shimo.
Please go like and subscribe to Kevin Lambert, the Entertainment Headquarters. Great content over there. Like and subscribe to this channel if you like it at all. We would appreciate that. And we'll see you next time on the Military Podcast.